Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We back for another good classic. We got Brother Ameen in for another history lesson. And today's topic, he's going to let us know about the historical American Red Sticks. And he's going to talk a little bit about the resistance and the revolts of the so-called Black American against oppression. And just go into some history of the lineage of Black Americans to the Old South. How a lot of so-called Black Americans have Mississippi and Mound builder ancestry. So he's just going to give us a good lesson, and then we'll have a conversation and dialogue, and the brother can take us to it.
Oh yeah, man. This is about the rebels against slavery, man. The Negro Abraham of Black Seminole warriors, and it's really showing us how we was like the first Black Indians that was already over here in America. You know what I mean? All of us ain't come from Africa, like I was saying in the previous videos or whatever. So this is about the Black Indian, the Negro Abraham, the Black Seminole warrior. You know what I mean? Back in Florida, the war was far from over. The Seminoles fought on when Osceolas had been taken under the white flag. So had one of the captains a leader named Wildcat. Oh, that's amazing right there, Wildcat. I know y'all familiar about that. While being held at Fort Marion, Wildcat and his men fashioned to rules weight, then loosened the bars on the windows and slipped away in the middle of the night. Deep in the swamps, Wildcat called a meeting of the warriors who had fought with Osceolas. Among them were two Black Seminoles, Negro Abraham and John Horse, who pledged their allegiance to Wildcat. John Horse, considered a shrewd negotiator and a skilled warrior, soon became second in command. Together, the two men led militant Seminole forces that refused to leave their homes.
All right, pause real quick. So the brother just said something real critical, rather, when he talked about indigenous Americans who were militant and they wanted to retain their customs, their traditional values. Because at this time period, you had a lot of Europeans coming in trying to, convert the people into Christianity, get them to start speaking English. But a lot of the American Indian tribes, they didn't want to give up their culture. So the ones that wanted to keep their culture, that wanted to basically stay on the dean like they were already on it, they would be later on labeled as Red Sticks, because that term Red Sticks goes back to the American Creek War, which was in the early 1800s, a couple of decades before actually the Seminole Wars. So the ancestors of the Seminoles actually were the Red Sticks, those that wanted to fight against oppression and wanted to retain their own values. Just like how today, a lot of so-called Black Americans don't really know our history and a lot of our traditions because, our people were converted and forced into, other forms of culture. So that's what the brother is talking about. You can continue.
Oh yeah, for sure. The Seminole knew their land and loved it. Abundant with life, the swamps and marshes of the Everglades provided food and shelter for them. Living on the run, the Seminoles moved among the cypress trees with speed and agility. Many of the United States soldiers who came there weren't prepared for what they encountered in the Florida swamps.
So let's pause real quick. So let me ask you this. You grew up in Georgia. Could you see how people were foreign and they came to try to fight some American Indians in the hot Georgia forests and the woods? You know what I'm saying? The swamps of Florida, the mosquitoes, the snakes, the alligators. Can you see how a foreigner would come here and basically not know how to fight in that?
Yeah, I can tell. See, like, cause some of them people, them British and European people, was in them caves and stuff. So it's cold. You ain't got mosquitoes and all that type of stuff in the cold and them cages and stuff like that. You might have a few spiders and stuff like that because they cold-blooded creatures too. But coming over here in these swamps, these mosquitoes, these snakes, these gators, the horses, the monkeys, like snakes and stuff like that. See, us as being Black Indians and stuff like that, or more of nature, we already knew how to fight them. We already knew how to catch them. We already knew how to skin them, make skins and stuff like that, gators and stuff. So when they came over here, they wasn't prepared for that type of stuff like that.
Exactly.
And you can even see it to this day. For instance, like, how you might have some UN people, they can't stand the heat, the humid. What do they do? They go live in the mountains up there going towards Tennessee where it never get hot at. But there's some parts in Tennessee and North Carolina and all that stuff that never get heat and humidity like how we do down here. Oh yeah, and another thing, look at them old cowboy versus Indian movies and TV shows. You know what I mean? Let's just look at all of those. I forgot the name of them shows, man. Gunsmoke. How they be riding on the horses trying to take over the Indians and stuff, and the Indians had them arrows and they even took some of their guns. So yeah, here
Facts.
go a picture
Yeah,
of the
show the people.
Negro.
Yeah, show the people on this. Come a little bit closer so the people can see Negro Abraham, a real Black American Indian, ancestor of modern day Black Americans from Florida, Georgia. But this is how they look. You know what I'm saying? So you clearly can see they calling the brother Negro Abraham, and also that term Negro, Black, Indian. There were a lot of different Moorish. There were different terms that were, served as placements to describe the ethnicity of our people. But nevertheless, if you call yourself a Black American or an African American or a Negro, you are a descendant of these people. So we appreciate the brother showing us, how he look on the screen. He can continue for us.
Yeah. Yeah, so the state's alligator pressure, heat, and mosquitoes by 1843, the climate and the Indian struggle had taken its toll on both the soldiers and the Seminole. Most of the Seminole Nation, including 500 blacks who were finally allowed to migrate with them, had reached Indian territory in Oklahoma. That's deep. Still, there were holdouts who refused to leave. The U.S. government finally realized that the Seminole Wars were too costly to continue. The government had spent millions of dollars and 15,000 soldiers had lost their lives. The death toll among the Seminole and their black allies who were forced who, who were forced marched across the country was staggering. At least the war ended in 1843 when the troops were withdrawn.
Right. So what the
Yeah.
brother just read to us about was, the United States Army and military spent a lot of resources and money trying to come into the South during the early to mid 1800s to take the land. Because we know when the Europeans first came in the 1600s, they established what's called the 13 colonies, which was among the eastern seaboard. And believe it or not, Georgia and Savannah were one of the last colonies set up by King George. The initial colonies were set up by the black stewards of England, and later on by King George, who was also a so-called black man. That's where the term Georgia comes from. So when I want to ask the brother Ameen is growing up in elementary, middle, and high school, do you ever recall being taught about your Black American ancestry dealing with American Indians?
Nope, not at all, not at all. And then, but sometimes, like say you get a substitute teacher or something in your social study class, and or one of your teachers get fired, because I actually seen this before. One of your teachers get fired or whatever, then they bring a black man in, then somehow they find out that he might try to throw something in there, and then he mysteriously get fired, or he'll get sick, or he'll just quit. You know what I mean? Just think about that from back in the day when somebody try to come in and give us a bone to lead on that. They always disappear or they always get fired or sick. So them was like only small portion of time back then. But and overall, they have not never just really want us to know the truth and stuff like that.
Right. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna have the brother Ameen read a page out of my own book, America, Moorish Paradise of the Plumed Serpent, just going into some of the same history. But we want the brother to read what is the definition of the American, because these terms like white and black, those are colors. They're not really ethnicity and nationality. So for all so-called Black Americans out there, what we want to do is know what actually is an American. So the brother Ameen is going to read about what an American is on the second paragraph of page 13 rather. So, brother, you can read this and then you can just stop. You can just stop on the top of page 14. So you're gonna just read this paragraph and basically get the people to understand what is an American.
Like before the columns, much of American history also hidden in the created holiday we know as Thanksgiving. It tells the story of foreign people being assisted and guided in the ways of life by indigenous Americans. But within these foreigners came mayhem and the destruction of once remarkable civilization. From COVID-19 to the death of George Floyd, life since the arrival of Columbus has been totally opposite of what it once was. There was a time when you had to pay no bills and food was in abundance free of charge. A time when you weren't in consistent fear because of the modern mainstream media. Even as your eyes gaze these words, the perpetrators of ignorance are on the edge of their seats, desperately cooking up new lies to keep Americans dumbed down. If we follow the breadcrumbs they leave behind slowly but certainly, we can weave through the bogus lies meant to deceive us. The
Thanks.
word American, according to Webster's 1828 dictionary, means a native of America, originally applied to the Aborigines or copper colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to descendants of European born in America.
All right, stop right there.
They was trying to take shit.
So I want you to reread the definition of what an American is. Now, mind y'all, the definition that Brother Ameen is reading goes back to 1828. So he's reading the original definition of what an American is from the early 1800s. So let's see what the brother said again.
The word American, according to Webster's 1828 dictionary, means a native of America, originally applied to Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by Europeans.
All right, pause. So the brother Ameen said that an American applies to the Aboriginals who were found here by the Europeans, and they were described as a copper-colored person. Now let's look at the brother Ameen right now. As we can see, the brother Ameen has on a black shirt and some black pants. So when you refer to him as a so-called black man, my first question to you, Ameen, is your skin black?
No, it's brown.
It's brown.
Copper color.
A copper color. And we know a copper color is like the same color as like a penny. So if the original Americans were described to be a copper colored people, already we can do a process of elimination of who the original Americans are. Now we know that those Native Americans they show us on TV like Buffalo Bill and all them, those are not a copper colored people. But when you look at the so-called black American, we come in all shades of brown, copper, bronze, these earth tone complexions. Especially like now in the fall here in Georgia, you know, the foliage is starting to die. So if a melanated person were to go in the woods right now, we could camouflage and blend in. And that's why it was very hard to fight the American Indians, because our skin camouflaged with the land. So to just conclude, Brother Ameen just told us that the original American is the copper-colored Aboriginal. And these people that's on those reservations right now that live in the western states, they are not originally Americans. Those people come from Siberia, Mongolia. They have Asian descent, okay? So the last thing we want, you know, the brother Ameen, to just give us some words of wisdom on, you know, how important it is for people to be vigilant about learning history.
Man, you got to learn history so you can have a better understanding of where you come from and why you act the way you act and why things are the way they are. Like they just, for instance, for makeup, whatever. Like you ever heard of a mud bath? When they was fighting on Europeans and stuff, they used to jump in the swamps and stuff and get the you know, get the mud and rock. They make you blend in more. Down there can't see us as it is, but imagine we used to put that all that stuff.
You know something funny? And not to cut the brother off, but in the movie The Predator that came out in the 1980s with Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's a Caucasian actor, the Predator was basically he was a being from another galaxy that came here to Earth to hunt. And in order for Arnold Schwarzenegger to fight the Predator, he was trying to camouflage himself so the Predator couldn't see him. And guess how he camouflaged himself? With the mud.
With the mud.
So where would Hollywood directors get that from? And Brother Ameen just told you.
Yeah, you know exactly. You know where they got it from. They took our whole swag, man.
Right.
You know how they go.
Right.
But to pick up, many students are told in history class that the name America comes from the Italian explorer named Amerigo Vespucci. How you say it? Amerigo
Vespucci.
Vespucci, yeah. But this is far from the truth. The name America existed on this land long before the European reached the coast of Atlantis. America was named by the descendants of Meru, and we clearly can see the consonant Mr. Berry in the name. In America, we find the word amor, which means love. Please keep in mind consistent use of the Mr. used by the ancients to identify themselves. Oh, right. It's deep right there.
So, Brother Ameen just, you know, let us know that the word America has a variety of meanings, but it pertains to the indigenous people. So we named our land, we named our rivers, we named our tribes, our nations, and we named ourselves based on how we saw things. So that word America is very, very dear to us and in our heart. You know, and me personally, I only consider myself an American. You know, I don't even really put no adjective on it. So we appreciate your time. We appreciate Brother Ameen giving us a reading lesson for the day. Y'all stay tuned for the next one. We out.
For sure.